Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our middle school college counseling Q&A. Last month, we heard from a handful of middle school families and a couple of lower school families just with questions about our upper school. Specifically, is the upper school college prep? Dr. Hecox and I have been here for well over 15 years, and we know that the answer to that question is a resounding yes. And so we decided we need to do a more effective job of communicating our advantages in this area to you all. So that's why we're here today. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hecox and our college counselor, Ms. Morissette. So the upper school has many attributes and characteristics, all of which are centered around the idea of preparing our students for college. So what does it mean to prepare students for college? To me, it means two things. The first is preparation for college, and second is admission to college. So I'm going to speak to those briefly now before we shift gears. So our curriculum and faculty in the upper school are focused first and foremost on preparing students for success when they get to college. Our small classes, professional student-teacher relationships, challenging curriculum, emphasis on academic excellence, and commitment to writing and communication all put our students in the best possible position to meet the demands of college work. And our alumni testimonials routinely bear that out as they consistently report how well they do relative to their college classmates and peers. Those same characteristics in the upper school also put our students in a better position to get into the college of their choice. You will learn more about this process shortly, but suffice it to say that when we combine the aforementioned features of our academic program with our low college counselor to student ratio, our unique college counseling curriculum, the experience and expertise of our faculty and counseling team, and Dawson's reputation and connection to college admissions offices across the country, Dawson is unquestionably the place you should be if your goal is to maximize your child's college options and performance. I will now turn things over to Dr. Hecox and Ms. Morissette for a brief presentation, and all of us look forward to answering your questions and perhaps even to challenging some misperceptions that might be out there over the next hour or so. So thank you for coming, and turn it over to Dr. Hecox, our upper school director.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm really happy to see you. I think it's a really important part of what we do to create relationships between the school and parents, and it's really important to us that you understand really clearly what we do here, how we do it. This is year 23 for me at this school. I started as an English teacher and then was English department chair and spent 17 years as academic dean. And now I'm in my third year as upper school director, which gives me a really long history of getting kids through high school into college, making sure that they are as healthy, well-educated, passionate, and driven as possible. And so we have sat down together. Sarah Morissette's in her first year here, but she's really incredibly well-versed in this. She's got a lot of experience on both sides of the college world, both as in the college, as a college rep, thank you, that was the word I was looking for, and on the high school side. So she knows both ends of it, which is really valuable for us. We have gone through the questions that you sent in. Thank you very much for sending those. I think that we have tackled most of these in the presentation that Sarah's going to give. If there is a question that you had that we don't touch on in the presentation, definitely let us know afterwards. Our hope is that we're going to be able to go through the presentation first so you can get kind of general knowledge about what our process is and what our philosophy is. And then after that, spend a lot of time just answering questions and having conversation about how we do what we do. And with that, I will turn it over to Sarah Morissette.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning. So Dr. Hecox really brings the institutional knowledge. I'm here at month 4, but due to my position, I really jumped in the deep end, right? We had our free Colorado application days just last week, so all of our students have applied to college. And then the next big college deadline is next week, November 1. So although I haven't been here very long, I feel deeply connected to this community. And I hope that my family and we moved here from the East Coast last year. So hopefully my early morning energy and cadence isn't too much for you guys. Our Dean of Academics is helping me with IT. We're going to have a pretty quick cadence here, Mr. Lopez. So welcome and thank you so much for being here. This is a really easy presentation for me to give because without a doubt, nobody can compare to what we do here at Dawson. So I'm really excited to just kind of cast some light and give you guys some sense of what we do at the upper school. So these are our seniors who, when this photo was taken, I couldn't have picked any of them out of a lineup. Needless to say, I've now written almost all of their college recommendations with help from some of the faculty, and once again have a really good sense of where everybody's goals are, their aspirations. So we're pretty excited. I'm ready to get the process started and get some good news coming through the door. So what we do at college counseling, my background, as Dr. Heacock said, many moons ago, I was on the other side of the desk as a road warrior, as an admissions counselor. I was reading the applications, giving out the decisions, working with families on financial aid. I then went and got my master's in school counseling, and for about 13 years, I was a school counselor and college counselor. Most high schools, including many of the high schools around here, they have everything counselors. So if your son James is my student, I am his social emotional counselor, his academic counselor, and his college counselor. So I did that for a very long time. So just know that everything I do comes from a very holistic place. So I didn't write this mission statement. It was here before I came, but it so directly aligns with what I do, which is caring for the whole person as we move through this process. So I want to walk you through a little bit about what we do all 4 years to prepare our students to not only get into college, but be successful in college. I'm looking with my seniors, I'm looking 5-6 years down the road. I'm not looking at the next few months as to what acceptances we might get. I'm looking at a student getting acceptances and then going and then having fun and enjoying themselves and then graduating. Yeah, we want to leave as well. So in 9th grade, we're working all 4 years on the personal narrative. The college essay is still one of the biggest parts of the college application process, and it's unlike any essay that these students have ever written. Students that have an A+ in AP Language or AP Lit sometimes struggle with writing this personal narrative. There is no thesis, there is no intro. They don't really know what to do. So from the second they get in, we're working with them in different classes to work on that personal narrative. How do you just kind of write about yourself, free write? Ideally, the essay is written in your voice. So if I have a big stack of essays, I should be able to pick out your daughter or your son. Oh, that sounds like Jake. Or Jake would never talk that way. That's kind of what we're looking for. 9th grade very much is about navigating Dawson. We have so many resources, so many things. We want to make sure that students understand, whether they've been here before or are coming from another school, how to navigate, how to make the best of their time during high school. We have financial aid information and kind of accessing college scholarships and how to finance college, accessible for all 4 years of parents. Ideally, these programs are for freshman and sophomore parents. It's something that you want to be thinking about prior to senior year. We're going to explore extracurricular activities. You know, if your student has a perfect GPA, wonderful. Then I have a sense of what they do with all their time. But most of us regular people, we have other interests. So when we apply to college, we have the transcript. This is what I've done in the classroom. But then the resume, the activities, that complements the transcript to let me know, and what do you do outside of school, on the weekends, including family responsibilities. Well, I'm the oldest of 3. I have my driver's license now, and I'm the family taxi, right? These are all components that colleges want to know as to how students are filling their time. So we want students to explore. We have a lot of unique clubs and sports that we're really proud of. And then 9th grade, we want students to make summer plans. Summer is a great time to kind of dip your toe in different things that kind of just fill your cup. We don't necessarily want to chase things that will help me get into college. Let's just enjoy ourselves. Does that internship sound fun? Let's do it. Does that summer program at Notre Dame sound cool? Let's do it, right? Giving students access will help inform their college decisions. Next slide, please. 10th grade is somewhat similar, although you can imagine that the 9th graders, that's a different vibe. The 10th graders feel that they're very settled in. They're not like those little 9th graders, right? So we're continuing that personal narrative writing in many different classroom settings. We're keeping up with our schoolwork. Something that's really unique about Dawson is that at some of the other local high schools, or at my previous high school on the East Coast, you had one counselor. Here, you're going to keep up with your schoolwork, you're going to continue to do well, and you're going to work with your advisor, your personal counselor, and your college counselor. So you get 3 for 1 here at Dawson to come across any questions or concerns as they arise, right? And we're going to stay with you during your time here at Dawson so that we can really get to know you, so that you're not constantly, there's nothing wrong with having new relationships, but ideally you're building on those relationships. You're getting ready to take some practice standardized tests. Most colleges are test optional. We were really hoping that COVID would kind of the tests, but here we are. So most colleges, there's a handful of schools that still require in order to apply. Those include some of the military academies, but most schools are test optional. We recommend that our students take the test, but I would say, and once again, it's only my first year here, maybe 50% of our students are choosing to submit those scores when it comes to application time. The nice thing about the sophomore PSAT, it is solely a practice for the students. The colleges cannot see this information. Not only is it an opportunity for them to get to know the test, the PSAT this year went digital, so that's kind of a new thing. Your students wouldn't know the difference by the time that they take it. So it's just a practice with no risk. Once again, ideally parents have access to some of our evening programs, exploring extracurricular activities, and making thoughtful summer plans, right? We just want to, in September, how was your summer? There should be a response. One response is not better than the other, but there should be some sort of response. Next slide, please. All right, here we go. We're ramping up, right? So here we are, junior year. I am a 12-month employee, so I am here all year round. So we welcome any family, freshman, sophomore, junior, to come on in, ask questions. We actually just redid the college counseling office. I'm pretty proud of it because interior design is not a strength I have. But we wanted it to be really welcoming and kind of a lounge. We want students to come and hang, whether they're doing math homework or not, to just enjoy the space. So we're asking families to come on in, let's have some questions answered, get to know each other. We're going to take the PSAT again, and this time as a junior, you can take it for scholarship, depending on how you do. We also team up with an awesome group called Mindfish out of Boulder, and they offer a free SAT and a free ACT on campus just to Dawson students. They then also offer classes and individual tutoring for fee, but they do offer that free experience, and I really love that because every university accepts either the SAT or ACT. One is not better than the other. So it's really nice for a student to be able to kind of just take it. I always say, why don't you take the 2 practice tests and let's see what the numbers say. Well, you did better on the ACT. Woo, there you go. Question answered. Or, you did the same, but you preferred, I don't know that anybody likes, but you preferred the SAT. Great, then that's how we will continue to move forward. And once again, just come hang out. We don't want people feeling like they can't access our office, and that goes to all of you as well. If you want to come in, we have a Keurig machine, and we have some chai. It's very nice. We want the space to be accessible to everybody. We don't want it to feel like these gates. One of my new faculty, we came in together. He's a graduate of this school, and it was one of the first days of school. And I'm kind of intense, if you can't tell. And he is very tall, and I'm very short. And I was looking at him, and he said, Morissette, just don't forget, these kids kind of think that you're like the gatekeeper. This is Ben. And I was like,
figured that out.
Really? And he was like, yeah, just be gentle. And I was like, okay, right? I don't want to be the gatekeeper. I don't want students to be intimidated. I do have expectations, and this process is, for some of our students, this is the first time they're really being held to a deadline. There are a lot of circumstances, sure, I'll give you an extra day, or maybe we can work around. When it comes to college admissions, you get it in or you don't. So I lovingly want to kind of hold them responsible to those things. But that was really, really great advice from my friend Ben of just kind of I don't want people to feel like this is the gatekeeper. I don't want people to feel that they can't come to our office. So we're really trying to encourage, and I'm thrilled to say the space is being used really, really well, particularly by our seniors and also our juniors. So that makes me really happy. Next slide, please. Spring semester junior year. So one of the unique things that Dawson has is that whether your student likes it or not, for an hour and a half every week, spring semester of junior year and fall semester of senior year, they get this. Whether they like it or not. So it is in their schedule. And this is part of the reason, one of the many reasons I wanted to work at Dawson, is it makes my job so much easier. I don't have to chase after students. We have this built-in time where we can really take, and for the first time in my professional life, this whole process takes time. And for the first time in my professional life, I have that. I have time. I have time for every student. I have time to sit at lunch and get to know them, or sit for half an hour in class while students are working on something else and going over essays with another student, doing interview practice. So that's a real rarity. I was lucky enough to have that at my previous school, and I can't go back. I can't go back of not being as valuable as biology, as AP Chem. If we are a college prep school, it says so because it says right on your schedule. So in this class, junior year, we're going to talk about the fit, right? Once again, you know, I think that Dawson students are at an advantage because on some level, you guys have had this conversation. Well, Dawson versus our local school. What's the best fit? Well, we're going to do that same thing on a larger, potentially more expensive landscape, right? But talking about what does your student need? We want to make sure that, you know, that they've landed in a place that, yes, they got in, but that they're going to enjoy and do well, and once again, then graduate. So we have time to do all of this. We're going to start building our list. There are over 3,000 schools. Where do you even begin? We're going to talk about the process, how to navigate it. We're going to talk about do's and don'ts of college tours. You're not surprised that one of my first gigs was a tour guide. I walk backwards very well. And don't think that there aren't some do's or don'ts. I know your dad went to Notre Dame and it's your favorite hat, but don't wear that hat on DePaul's campus. Take it off, right? We just want to be thoughtful. So there are some do's and don'ts. We have that time. And kind of what's next? Conversations only possible with time, which is something that I say in front of all of my supervisors I can't believe I have. We're going to make a testing plan. So most students are going to start taking their real deal SAT or ACTs spring of junior year. They could take it earlier, but it's kind of like me sitting for the AP French exam right now. I've never taken French. I could take it. I don't think I'm going to do well, right? Ideally, junior year, spring semester, or maybe even fall senior semester. That's when students do the best. Sometimes families want to get it over with. I get that. But missing that junior year, you're missing a whole year of knowledge that obviously usually helps our students do well in the class, on the test, excuse me. Possibly attend Winterim. So you guys all know about Winterim. This year, I'm running a Boston college tour, and actually Dr. Hecox is running a Northwest college tour. We pick 2 different locations every year for students to choose. We're going to discuss senior courses and how that might impact your school. Some schools, depending on your major, you want to go into engineering. They want the big 3, chem, bio, and physics. Let's make sure that we have that, because that might be the reason you don't get access to that school. We want to have those conversations early on. You're going to take your AP tests if you're enrolled in an AP course in May. We have college reps coming to visit us. I'm going to talk a little more about that in a minute, but all of our students have access to that. The college reps really are looking to spend time with our seniors. They're happy to answer questions from underclassmen, but due to the size of our school, very often when these reps come to visit us, it almost ends up being an interview. It's the rep with 1 or 2 students, and it's a really intimate conversation, usually about 20 to 40 minutes long, which doesn't happen everywhere, which I'm really proud of. We have a case studies night. This year it is at the end of February. We team up with Peak to Peak, and we have college reps come and sit down with parents and students and read college applications and make decisions. It's a great night. People get fired up. At the end, we say, okay, table 1, what did you decide? Well, we accepted James and we denied Cal. And this table's like, boo, we love Cal, right? And then this group, and it's a really fun and interesting experience just to see what it's like being on the receiving end of that application. We have an essay writing workshop. Once again, this is kind of my meat and potatoes, but we always want to bring experts in when we can, so we have that for our seniors. Every school is going to require one essay. 98% of schools. There are some schools that want your transcript, and that's it. And that just highlights what they value. Maybe that's not the right fit for your student, maybe it is. But most other schools are going to want one main essay. The theme is the student. And then depending on the rigor of the school, they'll want additional essays. We call these supplementals. They tend to be short and directed. Why Dawson? 100 words. We work with our students to write all those essays as well. And then we want to visit colleges over the summer and make thoughtful summer plans, right? We don't need to do all the things, but we just want to make a thoughtful plan. Next slide, please. All right, we're rolling into senior year. How am I doing? Are we okay? You guys still with me? Okay. So, senior year. Let's see, me 6 months ago. Okay, so you're scheduling another family meeting, via Zoom, coming into our office, spending time together. I really, really love us meeting as a family, if I could say so, invite myself to your kitchen table. But it really is a team. I tell the students, you're driving the bus, which depending who your student is, I'm thinking about my 2-year-old. Lord help us. But that might be a little nervous, but you're driving the bus, but we're in the bus. We are with you, right? We are here to support you. I am here once again all summer, so we have summer drop-in hours where myself, our assistant director, our registrar, we are here just waiting for students to kind of pop in, ask questions, go over the essay. Some students want to get a bit of a jump, particularly if your student is maybe a fall athlete, something like that. They might want to get some of the application done sooner rather than later. Visited colleges, and then once again, my favorite, come hang out. It just makes, I think, everybody's experience a little better if we kind of know each other. So once again, we just want the students to feel comfortable. Next slide, please. All right, fall of senior year. We're back in the classroom together. Now we're really going through the process week by week. Coming from the East Coast, I worked at an all-boys high school. My boys, they didn't even come back to school till after Labor Day. And needless to say, me on the first day of school, I was like, I'm so happy to be here. Like, we're behind. Like, hurry up. With these seniors, I was like, guys, come on in. So relaxed. It's August, right? We have all the time in the world. So we're going through the process. We're working on the application. We're going line by line on a big screen. Let's pull up your application. Let's go through it. We're working on the essay. We're talking about interviews. Some schools do still have interviews, but once again, this often comes helpful when colleges come to visit us, because we are not a large school, which is what makes us so great. So when CU Boulder or when University of Miami come to visit, you're not in a classroom with 30 other kids, and it's not a presentation like this. It's you and the rep, maybe one other person, and all of a sudden it's kind of an informal interview in the best way, not in an intimidating way. But now you have one-on-one time, you get the person's card, you email them afterwards, thanks so much for meeting, and now you have a connection. At most of these universities, it is still a person-driven process, which is what we want. We're visiting colleges, we're finalizing your list, and we're making a strategic application plan. This is where I come in handy. It's myself, I'm the director. We have an assistant director, Dr. Slater, who also teaches English, and then we have a registrar. Every university has multiple deadlines to choose from. The early bird does not always get the worm. So we want to choose the deadline that is most likely to get your student in. That's where we come in handy. So we're going to take your list and then we're going to make a plan as to how to apply. The first college deadline nationally, is October 15th. That is an immovable thing. We'll see if it changes by the time your sweet darlings are ready for this process. But for now, that's the deadline that we're all moving towards. We're applying for financial aid. Whether you think that you will qualify for traditional financial aid, but very often you need to fill out the FAFSA. This is the free application for federal student aid. If you went to college, you probably filled out the FAFSA. Even to receive scholarships, athletic, academic, you need to fill out the FAFSA. So we'll walk you through that process. You probably are going to continue taking the SAT or ACT as a student. My rule of thumb is you take your chosen test 2 times, minimal 2 times, maximum 3 times. And then we're going to move on with our lives. We're not going to die on this hill. You're going to attend rep visits with the college counseling office. You're going to take your APs in May. We're going to navigate decisions together. Deferrals, right? A deferral is, we read your application, we're not quite sure. We need something else. Can you come in for an interview? Can you send us your senior grades? Ooh, I'm reminding the seniors of that one right now. Can you send us another letter of recommendation? And then they will read your application again. Students get spooked because deferral starts with a D. I've been watching a lot of Sesame Street recently. D. Deferral starts with D, similar to denied. A deferral's great. Once again, if we have to wait an extra 30 days for that acceptance, so be it. We're going to want to make an action on that. And then navigating wait lists, right? The tricky thing with a wait list is you usually don't know until after the National Decision Day, which is May 1st. So we will help the students navigate all those choices and also just kind of play nice. You probably are applying to 6 to 12 schools. We also don't want to burn any bridges. So we want to make sure, thank you so much for the acceptance. I will not be accepting it, or I've made other plans, right? We just want, my guess is your student might go for a master's. It's a small world. So we just want to play nice. So helping the students navigate that as well. Next slide, please. Okay. That is the Dawson experience year by year. This is a bit of a snapshot, and we will be sharing, forgive me if I didn't say this, we will be sharing this slide deck with you guys as well. Because I know some of it is, my eyes are getting a little old, so it's a little tight. But these are some statistics from the May board report. So my predecessor put together this information, and it just gives you a quick snapshot. So the past 3 years, it just shows you how many applications, and really this just highlights our students are doing much better than the national admit rate. And you'll see that, let's see, you'll see 545. This was COVID year, and kids were just like applying, just seeing what they could catch, right? Because it was the first year that all these schools went test optional. So God bless Bobby with his 2.6 being like, I'm going to Harvard. I'm like, go for it, babe. So the numbers are kind of interesting, but once again, just showing that our students historically have done very, very well. Next slide, please. New Jersey. Looking at Manhattan, you could hit 4 or 5 schools in a mile. I was glad when college reps came, but it's not like they came out of their way. These college reps, you're not just walking by Dawson. One of my good friends, James Miller, is now the assistant provost at Seattle University. We've known each other a very long time. He used to be the director at the University of Washington. I saw him at a conference in Baltimore recently. We hadn't seen each other in a few years. And he goes, wait, you're at Dawson? And I was like, what? And he goes, I love Dawson. He's like, I love the campus. I love the children. They're great applicants. And I was like, once again, very tall. It's like, you know what? I was like, how are these worlds colliding? So Dawson, because it's so unique, we have a reputation. There are not a lot of schools like Dawson in Colorado, in the state of Colorado. I'm still learning the geography. Jersey is very small. There's a lot of independent schools. There's a lot of competition. Out here, the fact that James Miller, who I've known for over 20 years, is saying to me, oh yeah, Dawson, no, I know that. I know, yeah, you park because the circle's not there anymore, so you park down in the, I was like, wait, what? I was like, how do you know this school better than I do? And it just spoke to, so many people walked up to me at this conference actually, I owned the comment, but at first it kind of hit a little nervous. I met another rep from Colorado, and she goes, oh, you got that job. And I was like, at first I was like, and then I was like, well, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I called my husband. I was like, and he was like, heck yeah, you got that job. Heck yeah. So we are known, and that helps our students, unquestionably, when their applications are being read. Next slide, please. Okay, so I love this. So I have 2 little boys. So I was tucking in my 7-year-old. I said, I won't see you tomorrow morning. I have to go give a presentation to some parents. Of course, he wants to know what I'm presenting about. And I don't know what I told him. But I was like, but I put your name in the slide. So this is my 7-year-old, James. So this is a senior snapshot. So James submitted his Colorado schools last week during the free Colorado application days. Colorado is awesome and allows every student to apply to any Colorado school for free over 3 days in October. Love that. We met in college counseling class earlier this week from 10:15 to 11:45 on Monday. After some lecture regarding financial aid, which was kind of one of our topics this week, we reviewed his supplementals for the November 1st deadline. This tends to be a big deadline for early decision, early action. And we discussed an upcoming interview with Wake Forest. I reminded him of the Morissette 48-hour rule, as Halloween is next week. My 48-hour rule is that you apply to college 48 hours before the deadline. Too many times, my dog ate my homework, we ran out of internet, right? We've been talking about this for so long, and then I just remind the kids, I'm like, I have a small ninja and bunny. I'm gonna be busy. I'm gonna be doing this on the streets, right, during Halloween. So let's make sure we're on top of things. James and I made plans to meet tomorrow during his free period to review his extra essays, his supplements again, after my counseling college and edits. So that's what my seniors are doing. Next slide. This is my 2-year-old. My junior, Cal, he attended a few college visits recently in the college counseling office. I've seen him around a little bit, although we've never met. Cal's family took a trip over fall break to visit other family in the Boston area. And while they were there, they had an opportunity to visit Boston College, walk through BU, and tour Bentley. He recently emailed me to introduce himself. Cal and I make plans to meet tomorrow during his free period to hear about his Boston weekend and answer any questions he might have about the college process. So, I know there was a lot of information early in the morning on a spooky morning, as my 2-year-old would say. But I say this sincerely and passionately. There is no one that does what we do. There is no one in Colorado that does what we do. And it's because of our size, it's because of our knowledge. Myself and my assistant director, our personal network of colleges, right? We can contact schools. Kids are meeting these reps. And when the reps come, that's the person who's reading your student's application. It's not just some road warrior. That's the Mrs. So-and-so, that's the one that's going to be making your decision in 6 months. So those touch points really, really matter. And we've heard wonderful things from our college reps, not only about our students, but just about kind of being at Dawson and seeing our beautiful space. I hope that this answered some of your questions. Next slide. We're really grateful for your time on this early morning, and I welcome any questions that you might have. But thank you so much for your attention. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry. Thank you. So the question was, will we help students prepare for those college visits that quickly turn into a 20-minute interview? Absolutely. I call it interview prep. There are a handful of schools that still do traditional interviews. So often, I would say 80–90% of our visits kind of turn into an informal. So we do some role playing. We do some one-on-one. You know, once again, I've been in that situation. We did an interesting thing this year, not to say that it hasn't happened last year, but these are still kind of COVID kids. So I said, when you meet someone, you shake their hand. Show me. And I walked around and I shook everyone. They're coming out of, some of the kids, you know. I said, okay, stand up, look me in the eye, right? These little things, right, that just we want. I think a lot about this process is also just kind of professional prep, right? How to sell yourself. First impressions matter. It doesn't mean you need to show up in a 3-piece suit, although there is always one kid that will, but that kind of is on brand, right? They're like, of course, Kyle showed up in that. But otherwise, I said, be yourself, but just know, you know, I had a student sit down with one of his top schools, and he had a big box of cookies. And I was like, put the cookie. I was like, I'll give these to you later, you know. And he was like, oh, okay. You know, bless his heart. Not really thinking. I said, we'll just have a snack later. You know, you have 20 minutes with your dream school. And depending on who the rep is, the rep's like, can I get one of those? It's been a long day, right? So we want to create a non-intimidating process, and these reps will come in and say, we're regular people, and I tell the students, it's me a number of years ago, right? The college reps are going to give you honest information. They're not going to mislead you, but we absolutely kind of do some role playing, some tests, some prep. And that's why we encourage, the juniors. So the reps tend to come in full force in the fall, and then some will come back in like March and April. Those will be currently for like our juniors. They'll kind of start. But needless to say, the stakes are much lower as a sophomore, junior. So I recommend that students come to a rep visit that maybe they don't know the school very well, or it's not their time. Don't make your first rep visit your dream school. Let's see what it's all about. Come into our office. We do have a process. You need to get, if you have class, if you have a free period, great. Otherwise, you need to be excused. We have a process. We want students to understand that. But I encourage students, let's do a practice run. So, well, I've never heard of Bentley. Okay, well, you should come today. Do you have a free period? Great. And just see what it's about. See what questions other students are asking. See kind of what it's about. You don't know what you don't know. So we just want to kind of expose students to a lot of different things.
I'm going to jump in there too.
Please.
And just point out that that's one of the things that Dawson students are best known for. We hear over and over again from the reps that come to visit us, from grandparents when they come on Grandparents' Day, that the way that Dawson students show themselves when they get out into the world, and even while they're here as seniors, as remarkably articulate kids who know how to have their own agency in the world, ask the right questions, set goals, meet those goals. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that Dawson is best known for, is how students interact with adults and kind of craft their lives moving forward is a theme we've heard for a really long time, even without the college counseling class, right? It just is kind of a part of the fabric of what we do here at Dawson. So I would say that's a particular strength of ours.
Yeah, I have one more. George was like, tell stories. I have one more good story. So I met a parent. She's a board member. She had 3 students go through this school, and I kind of mentioned that I was going to see you all, and what do I say? And she said, well, I had 3 students, and it wasn't so much what they did at Dawson, it's the foundation that Dawson gave them. When my daughter was at school, and she was at like an Ivy League school, one of her first assignments in English, it was a paper, she got a D. Little did she know that everyone got a D, and it was a test. And the teacher wanted to see what students would come advocate for themselves, what parents would call on behalf of their students' D, and what students would just kind of eat it. They would just accept the D. So this young lady called her mom, ticked off. Well, I know this is not a D paper. She's like, she goes, I'm going to go talk to my teacher. Mom says, great. So she goes and talks to her teacher. She said, Professor, I don't think that this is a D paper. She goes, you're absolutely right. It was a B+. I said, I just wanted to see who was going to come and fight for their, and it's because of her Dawson education that she felt confident in a college setting to access her teacher. That is the Dawson experience. And that isn't coming necessarily from my office, as Dr. Heacock said. It is coming from all of the things that we do to encourage our students to be advocates for themselves. We're not mind readers. I can't always tell when you need something, right? So that was a perfect example. And so needless to say, the student got a B+. A handful of parents called on behalf of their 19-year-olds, which was a different indicator to that professor. And then a number of students never said anything, and they accepted the D. And so I think that that's something that our students learn innately by being here as a part of our community. Please.
You mentioned engineering, obviously being sciences. Can you help the freshmen with their course selection? You don't really want to wait till 11th grade when they're likely to cover all those sciences.
The question was, do we help freshmen choose their courses moving forward? I'm happy to. Once again, there are a number of advocates and advisors to help that student make that decision. But if a student wants my 2 cents, I welcome that.
and I'm going to jump in on that one too.
Please.
That's one of the advantages of the three-pronged system that Sarah was talking about, where we have a college counselor who focuses specifically on college, and she has an amazing breadth of knowledge about the college process, and she works with all students. She had a call from a kindergarten family a couple of weeks ago, so she's really available for everybody. But each student also has their own advisor, and you all know that if you're here in middle school. And so the advisors are trained to help kids make those decisions. And so one thing we didn't put up here is the graduation requirements for Dawson, which basically we view our job as opening as many doors as we can for your kids. In ninth grade, they don't know what their interests are going to be, right? Like, they have no idea. And so our job at that stage is to keep as many doors open as possible. Our requirement in science is only to have 2 years of science. You have to have biology because that is required at most Colorado colleges. And then you can take either physics or chemistry. But the reality is we advise almost all of our students to take 3 years of science because it keeps the doors open. And most of our kids actually 4 or more than that because they double up. Again, the premise there is that we're keeping doors open so that they have as many options as possible moving forward. So that is dovetails as part of this process, and they'll be getting that as they go each year, signing up for classes. Does that make sense? And then the reason that we only have a 2-year requirement when we advise kids to do 3, if that makes sense, is because we're interested in individuals here at Dawson. We're not interested in the old school model of we're requiring 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, and then every kid you graduate has the exact same experience, right? We want our kids to be able to follow their passions, apply to college as individuals with particular strengths that they have really dug into. So it might be if you're an art student or you're an English student, you're not going to take the physics class, right?
Right.
And that's going to be fine,
Yep.
but you will make that choice in an educated way. Does that make sense?
And colleges want to see, particularly senior year, when you apply to college, they will see your senior year courses. We don't have any grades to report in September or October, but they will see the courses you've chosen, and they want to see personality. So I encourage, we don't necessarily want to take every AP that's offered, but I want you to lean in. Do you love languages? Well, then that's a place that you should take that AP. But then you also, we have so many students, they're full people. And I want their transcript as best as possible to reflect that. I'm a STEM kid, but I'm also, in the fall play. And that's, we got an email the other day about next week is Tech Week. Treat them kindly, right? If you've ever been in a show, you know how that is. So we want that reflected. We don't want, there are going to be some choices, but we really want students to be able to have their cake and eat it too. But we're here to walk them through and give them advice and then encourage them to make the best decision for themselves.
How is the list of college determined? Are there invitations? Does Dawson set out invitations? Does that change? Is it dynamic based on where students are interested in going in a given year?
That's a great question. So how do we build our college visit list? It's an open door policy. So we have an online visit registration that's open to any and all colleges. So it might be a college that historically hasn't gotten a lot of students from Dawson. For many of our reps, this is a stop. This is always a stop, right? And then they plan some other schools around it. So it's completely open-ended. I was thrilled to see, I've been joking for years, well, not all schools come to visit. I mean, you're not going to see Notre Dame on the road. And guess who walked through our doors a week ago Friday? Notre Dame. And I was like, well, I got to change my joke. And they were here, and I've never met, not all schools actively recruit that way. So there are some schools that just, they don't visit high schools. They might do a program on a Saturday at the downtown Marriott, and it's an open invitation if you're on their mailing list, that type of thing. But it's open to any, and particularly if a student's like, I really want so-and-so to visit, depending on the school, I'm happy to reach out, make that connection. We'd love to see you. I did a lot of that. There's a national conference that we go to every year where everybody comes. There's also a huge national college fair on November 5th downtown that is open to anybody. If you're really interested in this process, I welcome you to come check that out. I'll be volunteering from noon to 2 at one of the booths. But that's where, and you can see a full list of colleges attending. But that's a great way to kind of get access and just, see what's out there. It can be pretty intimidating. What am I looking for when you're in a convention center of 1,000 colleges? It helps to have a few kind of anchors. These few things, I call them the non-negotiables. In order for me to be successful at your university, I need this, this, and this. And often they're not necessarily academically related. Your student has swam their entire lives competitively. They're not going to swim in college, but let's make sure there's a pool that you can access, not just like the varsity pool that you'll never see and the common folk pool is in the basement somewhere scary, right? Or access to an international airport. I want to leave Colorado, but I want to be able to get home quickly. That's a big conversation. Our students love Colorado, but they're also really adventurous. So I'm talking about, well, how easy is it to get home? I know you say you want to go away, but, I remember my little brother was in a punk band, and I was like, I got to be able to show up at one of Tim's shows, right? Or surprise my mom for her birthday. And depending on some of these schools, well, there's a layover and there's just, having students kind of think about that. I have a student who, a few months ago, and he still is, applying to the University of Hawaii. It's becoming less apparent that he might go there because, shocker, Hawaii is quite a bit away, as opposed to maybe a California school or a Northwest school.
Before you identify your various colleges that you might apply to, you often start thinking about what type of career path you want to go down. And I know, like in my case, I just happened to be good at math, so I went down in engineering, but that may not be, always the right choice for kids. So in your process, how do you start helping kids identify?
That's a great question.
Because you want to find something that you're passionate, that you love, but it's financially rewarding. You don't want to pick a job that's going to be taken out by AI in the future or something.
Sure.
Like that. So what within the Dawson process helps to provide coaching or advisement for that?
Absolutely. The question was, how do we help students navigate kind of what major to chase after, apply for, things of that. And this is where that 6 months in the classroom as juniors, we're able to pour, this is a reflective process. What are your values? What do you want to do? I remind students first and foremost that you don't have to declare a major, right? That there are many, there are universities and majors within every university that allows you to explore. It is my bias, and I've said this to students and families, like that's the path that I took. I knew very clearly what I didn't want to do. Knowing what you don't want is often as important as what you do want. But I didn't quite know. And like most high schools, we have an incredible lineup of classes, but we don't have everything. No high school does. So when I went to college, I, dabbled in psychology and sociology. I had never heard of sociology. So we're going to help students navigate. On average, students change their major in college 3 times in 4 years. Because you don't know what you don't know. My old school, instead of the mountains, we saw Manhattan. It was an all-boys school. The default was business. I want to go into business. That's great, John. Tell me about that. What do you want to do in business? I don't know. Well, why do you want to do business? My dad does it. I was like, okay, we need to do a little reflection. Or, I think I'm going to do accounting. Okay, John, do you realize that there's a lot of math in accounting? Oh. So we want to we're going to pull up college websites and look at, you're interested in accounting, let's see what classes are required. How does that feel, right? CU Boulder has some awesome exploratory studies majors that allows you to not waste time. All of the courses you're going to take are going to go towards your diploma and your graduation credits, but it allows you. Also, these reps, I was on the phone with our representative from CU Boulder the other day. I said, this student, he's on speakerphone, these are his 2 interests. How do we even apply? And she gave us direct knowledge on kind of how to navigate that application process to make sure that doors are open, as Dr. Heacock says. So we will work with the students. We want to expose them to a lot of things. One of my first gigs out of college, I worked for a university in the Adirondacks, about 10 miles south of Canada. And one of our most popular majors was outdoor recreation. A 4-year bachelor's degree in outdoor rec. Snowshoeing, whitewater rafting, downhill skiing. Not my cup of tea, but man, if that's your thing, right? And then our graduates were getting jobs with the Vail Company or with Four Seasons, and they were running some of their outdoor rec programs. Not for everyone, but we really want students to follow their passion and help them. Part of the conversation is, how do you define success? And that's a reflective question. You know, do you define success by the amount of money you make? Okay, well, this is the trajectory of that job, and we have tools that can kind of show you each state, what does that salary kind of look like. Your goal is to be close to family and stay local, and your goal is to become a firefighter or go into some sort of computer science, or you love video games. Great. How do we design video games or music for video games? Right? The idea that if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I'd love that for my kids. I'd love that for my students here. So just giving them access to that information and just exposing them, you know, they have in their mind, you know, here are the 5 things you can go to college for. We know that there's so many things. So just exposing them, and once again, that all takes time, which we have, and we take well over a year to kind of decide that. And then by this point, senior year, they should have a better sense of how they want to navigate their process. We have a lot of students that are still unsure. I have one student, God, I love him, and he's like, I want to be an elementary education teacher. I was like, you would be a great elementary education teacher. But he's like, I also kind of want to go into like social justice or maybe law, you know, and kind of doing this, you know, how do I apply, right? And choosing schools and programs that will let him kind of play around with those things. So it's a huge part of how, you know, I think very often when students apply to college, they don't realize clicking a major changes everything. Oh, you want to go into engineering? You just sunk your ship because you don't have physics, right? Or you want to go into this major, or by clicking this major, you just opened, oh, you're getting accepted because we don't have a lot of students. I have a student who's interested in Middle Eastern studies, sincerely. He's a dual citizen. I was like, that's going to open some doors for you because there just aren't as many applicants. So we'll have all those conversations together. It's okay.
How does athletics tie in? Like, if a student who is interested in playing in college,
Yeah.
they're being recruited,
Yeah.
is that process driven by the athletics department and the student, or how are you involved?
How do we kind of navigate athletics? So our athletic director, Mike Jacobs, and I work very closely together, kind of identifying, you know, bless their hearts, a lot of students think that they're going to the NBA. So I often am like, real quick, is he good? You know, what are we talking about here? So he will identify students. We do have a number of students. One of our students is being recruited by Harvard as we speak, a senior. So we do have a number of students, and I will help them navigate that NCAA process. It's my job to kind of be the fail-safe for the students, so I'm still going to encourage them to apply to other schools, and until I have something in writing that they've been accepted, I'm going to kind of play the devil's advocate. But we have a number of students that do that, and I have a lot of experience in that background.
You know, I just wanted to speak a little bit to that athletics question, because sometimes we have kids that say, oh, I need to, you know, I'm a baseball player, I'm a soccer player, I'm a basketball player, I need to play at a 5A school to get recruited. And that is one of the myths that I'm interested in dispelling. I coached soccer in a previous life, and I had a player on my team who was sort of nationally recognized. I can tell you, we had a good soccer team in high school. Not once did a college coach come and watch our high school team play. All of the recruiting for athletics happens at the club level because coaches can go and see all the best athletes at these showcases over the summer, at these tournaments that happen throughout the year. Another thing that we've seen happen is we've had students who are great athletes here who would probably play on our varsity as a 9th and 10th grader and have a lot of success here in addition to the success they're having on the club team. They go to a larger school and they are on the JV in 9th and 10th grade. They lose interest, and then by the time they're in 11th and 12th grade, they're not having the success and the enjoyment of the sport that they had when they were doing it here in the middle school. So from a recruiting aspect and from sort of an enjoyment and a participation and a success aspect, a lot of times staying here is better for those athletes. And those athletes can play multiple sports here, which a lot of college coaches are looking for too. They don't want you to specialize all the time. They look for folks that play that play different sports. And just as an example, just over the last 4 years or so, we've had a Division I girls soccer player at Virginia, Division I girls soccer player at Harvard, Division I baseball player to Georgetown last year, and a Division I softball player. We don't even have softball here, but she was a Division I softball player at BYU. So this idea that to be recruited or to be successful in athletics, you have to go to a big school, is simply not true.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's changing this year. Yep, I had a phone call with our buddy over at Peak to Peak yesterday, who ironically knows Sarah Boyer, and they went to college together. Just small world. Everybody knows Dawson. But yeah, we're looking, I keep saying I was not hired to fix anything. My predecessor did wonderful work, but I am just looking to kind of open some doors to the Dawson community at large. So it's a requirement for our juniors, and then the sophomores and freshmen will be invited. The event happens every spring, although it will feel a little different. So, I would imagine a freshman or sophomore parent, maybe you come one year, see how it works on the family calendar, that type of thing. But yeah, there's no reason. I think, and one of my concerns, because my background is in mental health as well, I want to walk that fine line between transparency and information, but I don't want to stress the student out. I want to reveal what we do so well, but I don't want to make freshmen feel like they have to be checking in with me weekly to be on top. They're doing enough. Your 8th graders are doing enough just by being themselves. That is enough. I've said this to some seniors that I've totally fallen in love with. You are enough. Exactly as you are, with your 3-1 or your 3-2. And we are going to package that in all of your awesomeness. And you're going to find your school. That's what I do. So I just walk that fine line, and I wonder if that's maybe been part of the reason in the past, is that we just don't want to misinform families or make them feel like, oh my God, we're behind. Not at all. Not at all. So we want to welcome you, but we don't want to put any added pressure on anybody younger than sophomore year. I saw some, emails, what can a 7th grader do to prepare? What can a 10th, a 9th grader, and the answer is keep doing awesome stuff. Be yourself. Be kind to yourself, right? I mean, college is an experience, but so is high school. And I don't want that to be lost because we're constantly, I think having children was the ultimate teacher in this. I was always I was never in the moment. I was always looking a week or 2 or 3 ahead. COVID stopped the world. I've gotten a little better. So I want our students, it's not easy being a middle schooler. It's not easy being a high schooler. I had great experiences, but I don't necessarily want to go back. So I want them to know that what they're doing is enough, whatever that is, and I want to work together as a family to help your student reach their goals, your goals for them, right? In a really least stressful way as possible. I was telling this will be my last story because we're over. But when I had my first son, it's a big deal, My husband and I would go into the hospital. We're all kind of, and everybody else in the hospital, it was a Tuesday. Nobody else was particularly excited. They were like, come on in, whatever. And thank goodness. I don't want everybody to be as anxious as I was about having a child that day. That's kind of what the college experience is like. For us, it's a Tuesday. I've been doing this for a really long time, and we're going to take care of your student. We're going to take care of your family, but know that you are in good hands and that we're going to walk you through this process with, the blessing of time. We're going to do, this is not going to be, you're jumping into the fire senior year. If you haven't thought about this process and you show up senior year, yeah, probably going to be really stressful. We're going to do a really nice slow warm. We're going to demystify as we go. We're going to give you information so that you feel like you know what you're getting into to the best of our ability. So that your student, when they graduate from Dawson, they are a whole happy person walking across that stage, not a white-knuckled, I keep saying kind of raisin. You know, I made it. We don't want that. We want them to say, I made it. I'm so happy. And ideally, and I can't wait, it's a very emotional day, graduation for me, is that it should be bittersweet. That's my dream. It's my dream emotion for my seniors, is that you kind of hate to leave Dawson, but you're excited to move on. That's the dream scenario that I hope and I look forward to in the spring. So I'm grateful for your time. Thank you for your questions. We'll be hanging out. I'll be hanging out a little bit if you do have individual questions, but we've kept you here long enough. There's snacks on your way out, but thanks again for giving a little bit of your morning to spend with us. We'll share these with you this week as well. So thanks again.